welcome to the second instalment of Star Trek: The Next Fornication. Riker spoke up. "Sir, isn't that a line from Mudd's Women?" he said, apparently questioning the authority and judgment of a superior, just as he did every week. "Commander, there are approximately 600,000 words in the English language, and they can be used in only limited combinations. In that limited list, there are only a few combinations of words that will be appropriate for any given situation. Therefore, out of necessity, some combinations of words can be expected to be repeated in familiar situations, as the minds of humans tend to work similarly, and they would react similarly in identical or similar situations," said Data. "I didn't expect a sort of Ulterior Inquisition," Riker responded. The crew looked around sharply and expectantly for a few seconds, but nothing happened. "Damn!" said Lieutenant Michael Palin. Picard stood to go to his ready room. He straightened his jacket. "Damn, I hate these things! I'm glad we're getting new ones for the next season," he said. "You getting a new jacket?" Riker said. "And a captain's hat," Picard said. "Where is my fucking hat and jacket?" Riker exclaimed. Suddenly, a chime sounded. Shift change! The crew worked on staggered shifts, so it was possible to work for 3 or 4 days before the same roster worked together again. This made for better training, as the crew found the best attributes of the entire range of crew, rather than just growing comfortable with a few people. Tasha, Wesley, and Data entered the lift. After a few seconds, Wesley noticed that Tasha had moved close to him and was pressing her cunt into his thigh, rubbing her crotch up and down, breathing heavily in his ear. His cock rose to full length, straining the material of his slacks. "Stop!" Tasha commanded the turbo lift. Dropping to her knees, she faced Wesley and moved so that his zipper, or where it would be if this weren't the 24th century, was near to the level of her mouth. "Have you ever had a blowjob, Wesley?" she asked. "Well, a friend and I sort of went camping on the holodeck, and we kind of felt each other up and stuff. It was fun, but we don't do it that much, of course. We jack off all the time. But I've never been sucked by a woman." "Query, Lieutenant Yaw, blowjob?" said Data. Although he watched as Tasha pulled the young cock and began sucking, Data felt no arousal. For not only did another cock not turn him on, but neither did a pussy. He's a fucking android, for Pete's sake. Accessing blowjob. Ah, a term used to describe the oral stimulation of the male sex organ, hopefully by a female, going down, swallowing the salami, tube steak boogie, slurping the sausage, giving head, tooting the fresh tuber, playing the skin flute, playing the furry harmonica. "Enough, Data," said Tasha, between slurps of Wesley's cock. Wes couldn't believe his luck. Here was the sexy Tasha, she of the tight pants, going down on him. Shit! This was a million times better than jacking off. But it wasn't going to last too long, because Tasha had a very talented mouth. Wes grunted, squirting his load into a woman for the first time. Tasha swallowed and stood up. Wesley fixed his parts, then looked up at Tasha. She put her arms round his neck and French kissed him. Although not as good as the blowjob, kissing was very arousing. If he hadn't just come, he would be getting hard as a rock. "Continue," Tasha said to the turbo lift. "Wesley, Not a word of this to anyone. If you ever want to do anything like it again, Data, you will forget this ever happened. Wesley grinned and nodded his head. Data's eyes rolled around as he erased the previous 5 minutes from his memory banks. The turbolift halted and the doors opened. The three stepped out and went in different directions. Entering his room, Wesley got into his pyjamas and lay down. He couldn't get his mind off the sight of Tasha's lips wrapped around his boner, suddenly realising his mum had left the bridge before he had. He flipped on his view screen and entered the password to activate the hidden camera in her quarters. She was there, and she had stripped down to her panties. She had a nice tits. Her whole body was slurpable, and it fit nicely into her panties. She sat on the edge of the bed and began rubbing lotion on her arms. Her huge tits were full and swelling, and her nipples were stiff and erect. After a while she began massaging them and rubbing lotion into them as well. She would rub from underneath, then grab and pinch the nipples before releasing the tit to let it drop back. This soon got her horny, and she began rubbing her pussy through the panties. She lay back on the bed and pulled her knees up so their feet were flat on the bed. She spread her thighs as widely as she could and began rubbing her pussy through her panties even more vigorously. Suddenly she said, "Oh, this is useless!" Expecting her to quit, Wes was pleasantly surprised to watch her pull her panties down. Although he had watched her finger fuck before, he had never seen her naked cunt before. Her previous finger fuck sessions were limited to feeling down inside her panties. But here it was, wide open, hot and wet, and surrounded by hot red hair. What a hole it was, too! She gently inserted her finger into the hot hole and began slowly pumping it in and out, round and round. Wesley's hand had found his hard cock and was stroking it. She was really going at it, but slow and deep, rather than fast. No wonder, Wes thought to himself. She hadn't made herself come in almost 3 months, and she must be very horny. Bev wasn't even fantasizing at this time. She was just enjoying the explosions of pleasure emanating from her stiff, throbbing clit as she thumbed it in time to her pummeling fingers, slowly sliding in and out of her wet, ignored pussy. "Ah!" she moaned and groaned as her mini orgasms exploded like like Romulan photon torpedoes against an unshielded ship. If the small ones were this good, she couldn't wait for the big one to hit. But she didn't rush it. She wanted this to last for hours and hours if possible. She could always grab a couple of hours of sleep chamber, and that would give her the effect of a full night's sleep. Right now, taking care of her pussy was more important. Wesley wasn't going to last as long as his mum. From the comfort of his room, he pounded his boner as he watched his mum on the view screen. His cock surged and splurted just a couple of minutes after seeing his mum's panties peel down and her cunt come into view. His cum shot up in the air and then splashed back down on him. He pumped for a few more seconds until he was drained and spent, then headed to the shower to wash off. "Man, that was a good one. That's the first time I've ever come so good twice that close together," he said to himself. He stepped into the shower and turned it into a steamy warm. A nice cum followed by a nice shower. Well, 2 nice cums actually. In her cabin, Beverly was still fingering. Suddenly, the intercom buzzed.